Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching the special presentation of Sansad TV, Bills and Insight, your one-stop destination for views, news and analysis of proposed legislations of India that have far-reaching implications and impact your life. I'm your host, KRITI MISHRA, and today the spotlight is on the Chartered Accountants, Cost and Works Accountants and Company Secretaries Amendment Bill 2022. The bill is aimed at enhancing accountability and transparency by providing for an audit of accounts of the three institutes. It was passed during the last budget session of Parliament. And before the detailed analysis, let's take a look at the highlights of the bill. The bill provides mechanism for dealing with cases of misconduct in three institutes. The bill addresses the conflict of interest between any administrative and disciplinary arms of the institutes. It provides for a separate chapter on registration of firms with the respective institutes. The bill was passed to amend the existing acts that regulate chartered accountants, cost works accountants and company secretaries. But why was it brought in the first place and why is it relevant? Well, India has seen a rise in corporate scams over the years. This has created a dent in the trust factor and the ability of the public to rely on the corporate sector entirely. The government has passed legislations to create and regulate professions like CA, CS and CMA to ensure that the corporate sector runs well. The amendment brings an outsider, non-members of the professional bodies, to oversee the disciplinary process. The processes are now made time-bound with hard penalties for violation of Code of Conduct. And joining us to discuss the bill threadbare is a very illustrious panel of guests. Joining us through virtual platform, Mr. Debashis Mitra, President, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Mr. P. Raju Iyer, President, Institute of Cost Accountants of India, and Mr. Nagendra D. Rao, past President, Institute of Company Secretaries of India. I welcome you all on Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us. And also joining us in the studio, young professionals. I welcome all of you. And before we commence our discussion, here's how our parliamentarians debated this bill.
I commend the bill for prescribing timelines for completion of disciplinary proceedings involving misconduct by the members of the respective professions.
Medical Council or the Bar Council are headed by professionals who understand the nuisances of industry and bring in experience and expertise. And how would a non-CA understand the technical nuisances of the issues?
To reform the disciplinary mechanism of professionals is part of effort to improve corporate governance and the quality of preparation of reporting of key statutory documents.
The bill aims at bringing discipline to the professions, but the disciplinary authority will be headed by a non-chartered accountant.
Those three acts are there, they are going to continue, they will govern the functioning of the three institutions. But this one act, which is now going to have an impact on each of the three acts, is only to the limited extent of bringing in greater transparency in the disciplinary processes with which these institutions function.
And Mr. Mitra, let me begin the program with you. The Punjab National Bank fraud, the IL&FS fiasco, failure of PMC Bank and the near crisis in Yes Bank are some of the glaring instances of the failure of the accounting professionals, putting the entire financial system at risk. In that context, take us through the importance of this bill, sir.
The frauds that you speak about, for example, in the case of IL&FS. Now, IL&FS is being dealt with by an organization called NAFTA, National Financial Reporting Authority. We are not dealing with it. And when we were dealing with it, you see, we had an inclination to hold the auditors guilty. Now, let me just tell you, KRITI, the way the disciplinary system at ICI operates. We have a disciplinary committee consisting of 5 members, out of which 3 are council members and 2 are government nominees. So in a disciplinary committee of 5, 3 are council members and 2 are government nominees. Now, please note that all the decisions of the disciplinary committee are taken on an unanimous basis. There is no vote. you might think that, you see, 3 people will outvote the other 2. It never happens. If the government nominee says that somebody is guilty, the other 3 says, all right, we go with that guilty verdict, right? So there is already an oversight in the disciplinary mechanism that you have today. So that is what our argument was before the Standing Committee on Finance. That, you see, when we already have such a robust system, why do you want to change this robust system? And further, the government nominees have never objected that, you see, the system is, flawed or anything of that sort. They never objected to that. So that is number 2. Number 3, you might say that, for example, I come from the Eastern region. So you might say that if I also deal with a disciplinary case of a member from the Eastern region who has voted for me, then you might say that there is a conflict of interest. Because how will I give him justice? So what we have done in the institute is, if I come from the Eastern region, I will not hear any of the Eastern region cases. I will only hear the cases of the Northern region or Western region, so as to ensure that there is no conflict of interest. So these are the good practices that we have already laid down. So you see, we think, yes, certainly every system there is a scope for improvement.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could fast track the whole thing, whole disciplinary process. We could fast track it that much more. We totally agree with this thing. But to say that the existing disciplinary system is totally flawed would be very unreasonable. That will not be correct.
Mr. Iyer, while this bill was discussed in Parliament, I do recall that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman asserted that there is no proposal or intention to infringe upon the autonomy of these 3 institutions. Are all the doubts dispelled now, and how has your fraternity taken these amendments?
The bill provides us the autonomy, and we are able to fix the fees independently. We are able to fix the members, and all those aspects it has been given transparency and accountability and responsibility. The previously we have to refer everything to the ministry, and then only we will get the approval for fees fixation and all those things. So that aspect is clear. But at the same time, what is the role of the council and what is the powers of the president? And now they are saying that the secretary is the CEO of the institute. But in that case, how the functions of CEO, how the responsibility will be fixed? Actually, it is in a situation where we are the elected members. We are responsible to our members. We are responsible to our voters. And we have to take care of the whole gamut of the students, the lakhs and lakhs of students, the youth who is coming into our profession.
Yes.
So those aspects, how we are going to do it. And as an official, they will not be able to have that vision, that mission. And we are having the vision and mission. So how the elected members, the president and the council members has to have the powers and what responsibility they are having. That way, the regulations and the rules has to specify that. Otherwise, the bill is a welcome one. It is giving autonomy. It is giving the powers to the council. A lot of aspects have been given there, especially the disciplinary mechanism as pointed out by our colleague, the president. It is that, of course, the mechanism is going well, but we have no objection in having outsiders into the disciplinary mechanism. In a way, it will be relieving us from the pressure of having the influences. And as you said, whenever the cases of related to us comes, we will be obtaining from the discussion also as a presiding officer. So those type of things are there. Bill is quite a good move.
Since we're talking about the relevance of the bill, Mr. Rao, instances of non-disclosure of material information to stakeholders have been plenty in the financial sector. It led to the RBI introducing asset quality review in September 2015 to assess the real state of asset quality of banks that were well audited and even went through the scrutiny of audit committee of the boards. So in that context, how relevant do you think this bill is?
The question what you have raised, I would like to put in this way, whether it is Institute of Company Secretaries of India or my sister concerns institute, all have been doing pretty well in terms of guidance note, in terms of all the documentation which is required to be given by the auditors, maybe it a statutory auditors or maybe it a secretarial auditors. But it may happen in few instances where a particular statutory auditor or a secretarial auditor would not have complied or would not have followed that particular standard or guideline. So to make applicable that particular individual to whole at large may not be the right attitude. At the end of the day, you will find all the professionals who are there. The number of cases may be very, very less, and more so far as the Institute of Company Secretaries is concerned. You will find a number of cases so far as the disciplinary proceedings are concerned, or in that connection, so far as any event is concerned, you will find we are more into non-financial aspects compared to the financial aspects. So therefore, in order to judge one person with entirely the fraternity may not be the right perspective from the view of the regulatory authorities.
I completely agree, sir, but there have been cases, and look at the quantum of the loss, the questions that are raised on the financial system, sir.
I agree with you. Again, you will find there is an audit committee, there is board of directors, there is a CFO, there is company secretary who are there to guide, advise from time to time. It is the failure of the system of that particular company by virtue of which the audit committee, who are also from an independent background. So the question arises whether the independent directors are independent or are they dependent. So therefore, in case if the audit committee or the board of directors would have realized what are the footfalls, I don't think so these kind of events would have taken place.
Absolutely, sir, and we do hope that such instances do not occur in future at all. But moving on, Mr. Mitra, do you think the unbiased association of non-members in the disciplinary committee is expected to eliminate conflict of interest, galvanizing fear of getting debarred from, in fact, practicing the profession?
Let me tell you, even as I was telling you, KRITI earlier, that even today in the disciplinary mechanism that we have, we already have 2 non-members out of a 5 disciplinary committee of 5 in the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We already have 2 non-members who are government nominees. They could be, say, retired IAS officers, retired, deputy CAG, or retired chairperson of CBDT, whatever it is. So we are not, alien to this culture of having non-CAs in the disciplinary committee. But the concern is, if you populate a disciplinary committee with a majority of non-CAs who are also known as lay members, then the disciplinary mechanism that we have today, in the disciplinary mechanism, the cases that come, they are extremely intricate in nature. For example, you might have a case about non-compliance of accounting standards, yes, auditing standards, income tax, GST, so many things you can have. To what extent a majority of a disciplinary committee, which constitutes non-CAs, will be in a position to deliver justice? Because these are highly technical subjects which requires an in-depth knowledge of this. And if you have not practiced this, technical subjects, then it is very difficult for you to understand and deliver justice. That is what we think. Please note here, KRITI, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India today is the 2nd largest accounting body in the world. Today, we have a membership strength of about 350,000. We have a student strength of about 750,000. I see a lot of students there, 750,000. Now, we were set up under an Act of Parliament way back on 1st of July 1949, even before India became a republic. So we are extremely proud of our legacy. And the former president of India, APJ Abdul Kalam, had described us as a partner in nation building. So we are also extremely proud of those words associated with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So the institute will do nothing which is against the interest of the nation. Let me assure you this.
Completely agree with you. All 3 professional qualifications, whether CA, CWA, or CS, they deserve respect and credibility for clearing the stringent examinations, in fact. But Mr. Iyer, do you think that this amendment is the beginning of a long pending process of bringing all the 3 institutes at par in terms of process, structure, and much more?
The bill provides for one, as I said, the autonomy, and it provides for a lot of, we will be able to fix the fees, we will be able to fix the syllabus and all those type of independently, so that we'll have a global practices. As it is now, we are having a lot of bringing the syllabus at par with global practices, and we are entering into, of course, MOU with a lot of international accounting bodies, and wherein they are giving a lot of exemptions and other things also as far as the studies are concerned. So already the practice is in existence. But this will be providing, only thing is, as I said, the regulations and the rules, how it is going to govern, how it is going to provide the independence of the council and the president's role, and
Yes, sir.
what is the role of the official officials. So that is the main criteria. So that the independence of the institute should not be banned. And as pointed out by our colleague, we have the disciplinary mechanism. Disciplinary mechanism is independent, and we are not involved in any of the decisions. And number of cases are, some of the cases are political cases also. This bill provides, as I said, it is a transparency, accountability, and it is giving us lot of freedom. And more, this has to come from the rules and the regulations. Then we will be able to know how best the intent of the government is being maintained.
But Mr. Rao, I'd like to understand, now that the firms will have to register with the institutes and the councils must maintain a register of firms containing details including pendency of any accountable complaint or imposition of penalty. So what does this mean for the businesses in India, for corporate governance, or for ensuring ease of doing business?
So far as the Institute of Company Secretaries is concerned with regards to the maintaining of the register of firms, there are certain changes which also is required to be made harmoniously under the Companies Act of 2013. Presently, the change has already been made only under this amendment bill. It has not been made under the Companies Act. So we would request that the government should also make necessary changes under the Companies Act 2013, because the Companies Act does not recognize so far as company secretaries as a firm, but only individual with regards to the practicing professionals. Second thing is, whether it is individual or a firm, the aspect of the bringing of this bill is welcome, except to the extent that de-recognizing the entire firm probably may be a little bit drastic step, because an act done by one of the partner of a firm, by virtue of which you taking off the entire firm, probably that particular act may not be wise or good enough, though it may help in bringing about good governance so far as the professionals are concerned. But at the end of the day, probably it feels to be little bit severe. The penalties has already been increased, and we as a company secretary, we feel that there should have been a separate company secretaries amendment bill to be introduced, because you cannot have the financial parameters fraud with that of a non-financial parameter fraud, because we do not enter into a financial aspect at all, whereas our thing comes only either at the time of the minuting or at the time of certification in respect of various works. So therefore, it would have been wiser. Now the present thing what has happened is try to align all the three institutes at par, which probably we feel that though we are par with regards to the knowledge center, we are at par with regards to the institute per se, but with regards to the penalty mechanism which is being levied, probably we feel that it is little bit harsher and it could have been lesser, because we do not enter into a fraud per se. It is only with regards to either a wrong certification or with regards to a professional misconduct while conducting a particular act or misconduct at a particular act, not with regards to a financial fraud.
All right, sir.
N number of cases
Yes,
you
sir.
have seen, whether it is Satyam or other cases which I do not want to take the name. You would find that company secretaries have not been found guilty or have not been found to be in the particular fraud compared to the other profession. So therefore, we feel that there should have been a separate parameters.
Mr. Mitra, would you like to respond to Mr. Rao there? He says that there should have been a separate parameter.
Well, you see, this question, I think, was asked of the Honorable Minister in Rajya Sabha also. And Honorable, because all the three institutes have been clubbed in the same bill. And she was saying that the legal department, they said that, it is possible to do so. I think in an ideal situation, yes, we could have had this three bills separately, right? And as long as the firms are concerned, let me tell you, first of all, let me take this, so much of mention is made of Satyam. That, there was a fraud in Satyam. The auditors of Satyam have already been held guilty by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. They have been given lifetime ban. We could not take action against the fund because, we had no power to take action against the fund when Satyam took place. Now, the act is giving us power to take action against the funds. So you see, and this power to take action against the funds, it is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India which had sought this power from the ministry.
Right.
It is the Institute of Chartered Accountants. They said, because we said that, you see, if there is some, offense which is extremely, extremely grave, then also give us the power to take action against the funds.
Absolutely, sir.
So that is
point.
what we are doing. So we are not against, this change which talks about taking action against the fund. We are not, against this change. So that's how it is. One point that let me tell you, KRITI, before you would take questions from the audience. This is something that you have not raised. They're talking about a coordination committee. Now, coordination committee of all the three institutes, Institute of Chartered Accountants, Cost Accountants, and Compensation.
Yes, sir.
Coordination committee per se, where you coordinate the work of the three institutes, we have no objection. That's very good. And let me tell you, I am personally a member of the Institute of Cost Accountants. I am personally a member of the Institute of Company Secretaries. And that too, a proud member of both these institutes. Right?
Sir.
But if you are going to have a coordination committee which, impinges into my autonomy, that is, if it starts asking questions, what you are doing in the academics, what you are doing with the infrastructure, things like this, then I have an issue.
We do hope that there is coordination in actual and real sense. Now, time to take some questions from our audience. Please go ahead, introduce yourself and speak your mind.
Finance Minister mentioned that it will help to create this big four Indian sort of institutions. So I just want to know that what provisions this bill has brought along that it will create such a big four sort of institutions in India.
How this bill will affect the other sector of Indian economy, means irrespective of banks and other things, and the regional banks.
Yes, we'll have to take that question. Mr. Rao?
This bill more so primarily focuses, or more so with regards to the disciplinary mechanism. And you will find, by virtue of this particular disciplinary mechanism, you will find that the investigation process would be more fastened by virtue of actionable, non-actionable. Earlier, there used to be a prima facie opinion report, and that prima facie opinion report used to be placed before the Board of Discipline, as well as before the disciplinary committee.
Right.
Now that has been replaced with the preliminary examination report, and you will find that there is a time-bound investigation. Earlier as well, there used to be a time-bound investigation. Now it has been more streamlined with 90 days with the Board of Discipline from the report of the preliminary examination report, and within 180 days from the receipt of the preliminary examination report, so far as the disciplinary committee is concerned.
Right, sir.
Now you will find, since best practices with regards to the independency is being followed with regards to the chairman or the presiding officer in case of the disciplinary committee who happens to be an independent person. So you will find that there will be no doubt which would be casted upon the disciplinary committee or so far as the Board of Discipline is concerned, because it would be presided over by the not by the president or the vice president, but by the independent person.
Right,
But
sir.
I fully agree
Yes, sir.
with my colleague CA Dr. Debashis Mitra. Whether it is Institute of Chartered Accountants or Institute of Company Secretaries is concerned, both follow the same practice, or including the cost and work accountants, they follow the same practice. So they recuse the matter in case if a president or a vice president is chairing, where he feels that there is a conflict of interest. So there is already a governance mechanism instilled, and you will already have two government nominees, and he has already explained as to who those government nominees are. And one of the most important provision in the disciplinary mechanism is that you cannot start a meeting without an independent government nominee, one of the government nominee being present in the meeting. So there is already a robust mechanism which is there, but having an independent person will give a different perspective so far as the disciplinary mechanism and time-bound investigation.
You'd like to take the last word? I just have 60 seconds on the show, sir.
For us at the Institute, autonomy is very, very important. We have, I think all the three institutes have got great legacy. and we are extremely concerned and extremely, positive about the autonomy. And when the Honorable Finance Minister says that, the autonomy will not be affected, we are, we are assured that, we go by her words.
Mr. Iyer, your closing thoughts, sir?
We have more than 70 years old, and as pointed out by our colleague, we have the legacy that we are doing quite well, and we are contributing for the economy. 1 or 2 stray cases cannot demean our profession or say that we are wrong. But if you take it, more than 95% of the cases, we are contributing for the company. We are bringing out wherever the frauds are taking place, wherever the system requires improvement, and whatever requests, we are doing it. So 90% of our members are considering. So this mechanism will again prove that because of the penalty is higher, again we will be taking more members, individual members will be taking more precaution, more activate the mechanism and go into the all aspects in a very thorough manner.
So these reforms were deemed necessary by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance to end the monopoly over the accounting profession. And this bill will bring the required level of accountability and greater transparency. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Iyer, Mr. Rao and Mr. Mitra. Next week, we'll return with an incisive analysis of another important bill. Till then, take care and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.